one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. By law, I need to inform everybody where the exits to the building are. The main exit for departure from the building this evening is to my right. And in case of a fire, there is an exit that you came in, and there are also other exits at the rear of the hall. I don't think we'll have a fire, so not to worry. The next piece of information is that I need to notify you that this meeting is being recorded, and just to make you aware of that. I'd like to introduce our acting town manager, Stephen Delaney. And Stephen will be introducing the new town manager this evening, Justin Salzbach.
Thanks, Bo. It's been my pleasure to be with you for almost 4 months, and it's a great community, and you should have a lot of pride in it. I feel wonderful having been a part of it. I'd like to introduce Justin Salzbach, our new town manager, who comes to us from Kingsborough as the assistant town manager. He'll do a great job, and I'm really impressed with him, and I think you will be too. So, welcome.
Welcome, Justin. I'd like to also introduce the attorney who will be representing us this evening, Brian Riley. Okay. Can we have the rules of the meeting, please? You don't have a slide? Okay, I'll do it from memory. Welcome to our meeting. It's here for the purpose of going over the business of the town of Winchendon for the coming year and to set budgets and other items. It is important that everybody recognizes that we use Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised. If you wish to speak on an article, you need to come up to one of the microphones up here, identify yourself by name, and that's for the minutes of the meeting. Under Robert's Rules, you can't speak more than twice on a particular topic. And I will be holding you to that this evening, just so that we can get the large number of articles completed. Are there any questions on the rules of order for the building? And please respect each other this evening. I've been seeing that on Facebook all week. Okay, we'll begin the meeting, and we're going to invite Chairman Barbaro to come up for a presentation.
The Winchendon Board of Selectmen, as trustees of the Boston Post-Cane, proudly congratulate Mr. Earl W. Requested, as acknowledged that he has the distinguished honor as the oldest resident of the town of Winchendon and is the recipient of the Boston Post-Cane. Mr. McQuestion turned 99 in January of this year. We hope to present Mr. McQuestion with the honor in the near future. The background information, if you'd like it. This is a New England tradition established in 1909 following Edwin A. Roser, publisher of the Boston Post newspaper, who presented this cane to the oldest resident of Winchendon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barbaro. We'll move on to Article 1, Committee Reports. Finance Committee. Mr. Kane.
Thank you, Ms. Barbaro. Finance Committee report focuses in on the town's savings balances that are affected by tonight's vote, and certainly set the stage for the town moving forward financially. First, talk about the free cash. We end up at the end of a fiscal year, often with a certain amount of money left over, either because we didn't spend as much as we thought, or we gained a little more revenue than we had anticipated. For several years, most of that money was used to pay down the deficit, the money that we had to borrow to pay off the deficit. So at the end of last fiscal year, the town had a free cash balance of $1,948,813. At the town meeting last September, the town voted to spend $4 $467,345. That left us with a free cash balance during the year of $1,481,468. So we begin this town meeting with that balance in hand. We've got 3 articles that call for the use of free cash. First one is Article 6, which is the town's operating budget. And most of the operating budget is covered by revenues that are considered recurring revenues. So those would be taxes, those would be local receipts, and state aid. This year, the town is requesting that we also use $453,763 to balance that budget. Article 14 is the library upgrades, and it calls for the use of $300,000 as part of the $597,247 that project would cost. So that would leave about $297,247 to be funded either by borrowing or other gifts. And then Article 16 is the $100,000 being requested to pay for a new generator, emergency generator that will be located at the Georgetown School. That will serve as the central emergency center should we lose power and need to operate off of an emergency generator. So at the end of tonight, should all 3 of those articles pass, we would have a balance of $627,705 in free cash. Free cash to balance the budget is a little bit unusual. This first time it's happened, at least in the last 6 or 7 years that I've been involved with the Finance Committee. But these are unusual times, made more unusual, I guess, by the timing of some personnel changes. We had our first draft budget in early January. It was put together by the former town manager, Mr. Hickey, which is much earlier than we typically see a draft budget. And like any draft budget, it's based on a set of assumptions we have about what we might expect to get in terms of state aid and what we should expect to bring in terms of local revenues. So there was some money that was anticipated as new revenues for the town that was going to come from the cannabis shop that's getting ready to be opened. And the state, however, said, no, you can't use that anticipated money. Even though you're likely to bring that money in, you have no track record. So it won't allow a town to anticipate earnings from an enterprise that it doesn't exist yet. So that was about $220,000 that was anticipated for local revenues. We still may get $220,000, but the state wouldn't allow us to use that as part of our revenue projections. State aid came in at about $111,000 less than what we anticipated. There's a little bit of differences in indirect costs that would be part of the school department budget. So altogether, there was $353,000 that we anticipated was going to be part of the revenue that didn't materialize. On the other end of it, the required net school spending that the state calculates was quite a bit higher than the town had anticipated, $480,000. So there was some cost trading in terms of trying to reduce the special ed budget, using some of the COVID money to cover anticipated increased costs there. And in the end of it, we needed about $100,000 in expenditures to be covered with free cash. So that's where that free cash request of $453,000 comes from. We had a special reserve fund this year. The deficit special reserves fund was money that the town had accumulated, required to accumulate, with the conditions of being able to borrow money to cover the deficit. So it's part of the state's deficit legislation. The balance of that when we began the year was $328,776. We spent $5,000 for the Council on Aging Fuel Fund, $82,242 on senior center repairs of the clock tower. Retirement payout of $27,300 and fire department salary overages of $87,453. So our current balance in that account is $126,782. Assuming we don't allocate any more of that money will become part of the free cash calculation done at the end of the year. So our projected town reserves right now is we do have $1,166,074 in the stabilization fund. Our anticipated free cash would be $627,705. And I say anticipated, I mean assuming that we pass the three articles that I mentioned. The town anticipates that we'll have more free cash once the end of the year reports are certified, that there will be some balance left in this year's budget to increase our total free cash amount. And then the deficit spending reserve fund is $126,782. So our total reserves at this point in time, $1,920,561. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Kane. We'll move on to Article 2, and the information will be presented by Selectman Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The Board of Selectmen would like to pass over this motion until the amended charter and bylaw committee have gone through the entire procedure of approval, which is a year-long process. So I move that the town will pass over Article 2.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass over Article 2. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Now, before you start clicking, this is how we use the clickers. You can't press your number until I say go. If you do, your vote won't count. So, if you agree with the motion, you will press 1. If you disagree with the motion, you will press 2. When I say go, go. Time's up. And you can see on the board, yes, you can, that the vote is 94% yes, 6% no. The motion passes. Article 3. Vice Chairman Ward.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to establish the annual spending limits of the revolving accounts as set forth in the warrant.
Second. It has been moved and seconded to have the town establish the annual spending limits of the revolving accounts as set forth in the warrant. Is the vote of the selectmen, please?
5-0.
Vote of the Finance Committee, please.
Finance Committee recommends 5-0.
And I will open it up for discussion with the maker of the motion.
This is these revolving accounts are reauthorized on an annual basis by the town meeting. If we check from last year, they're the same amounts and the same accounts as of last year. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to be heard on this article? Hearing none, your handy-dandy clicker. All those in favor of the motion as presented with a 1, against the motion as presented, a 2, go. And we have 90% in favor of the motion, 10% not in favor of the motion. The article passes. Article 4. Selectwoman Salter, please.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $8,800 for the fiscal year 2022 senior work-off program.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $8,800 for the FY 2022 senior work-off program. Vote of the selectmen.
5-0.
5-0. Vote of the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends 5-0.
Thank you. And will the maker of the motion please provide any explanation as necessary?
Sure. These funds are proposed to fund the fiscal year 2022 senior work-off program. It's an annual program that we have where seniors work at the town hall. We get credit for the real estate taxes.
Does anyone wish to be heard on this article? Hearing none, with your clicker, 1 means yes for the motion, 2 means no, go. And on this vote, it's 97% in favor, 3% opposed, the motion passes. Article 5, Selectwoman Labrie.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 as a grant to the Community Action Committee, 273 Central Street, Winchendon, in consideration of the numerous services provided to the town, and in connection therewith authorize the Board of Selectmen and Town Manager to enter into a grant agreement with the committee, setting forth the terms and conditions thereof.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Article 5. Vote of the Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen recommends approval 5-0.
Thank you. Vote of the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends 5-0.
Thank you. I'll open the discussion with the maker of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. This has been on our warrant for some years now. The CAC, as anyone who's ever on Facebook, and none of us are ever on Facebook, they do wonderful things for the community, and this is a little way of saying thank you to them for what they provide to everyone in Michigan.
Does anyone wish to be heard? Hearing none, with your clicker, 1 for yes, 2 for no, go. Okay, and the vote on that one is 88% in favor of the motion, 12% opposed. The motion passes. Article 6, Chairman Barbaro.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate and transfer from other available funds the total sum of $16,185,796 for the operating budget of the town for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021, all as set forth in the warrant under Article 6, with each line item in the budget as appearing in the warrant to be approved as a separate appropriation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and as we have done in the past, I will go through the general fund appropriation summary, topic by topic. If you wish to hold any one of those, please raise your hand and say hold. Okay? School transportation. YMCA. Selectmen expenses. Town manager expenses and personnel. Finance committee expenses and personnel. Accounting. Assessor expenses is spelled wrong. Collector treasurer. legal, data processing, technology, communications comm, town clerk, registrar of voters, conservation, planning board, zoning board, community development, town hall. Give you a chance to turn. Police, dispatch, fire, a hold on fire, ambulance, land use, emergency management, animal control, DPW, DPW highway, DPW fleet maintenance, DPW snow and ice, DPW street lighting, landfill, DPW cemetery, DPW tree trimming, health department, Board of Health outside service, Board of Health visiting nurse, Council on Aging, Veterans Services, Beals Library, Recreation Committee, hold on, Rec Committee, Historic Commission, Debt Service, Debt Service Interest, State Assessment, other state assessment expenses, other regional expenses, pension, workers' compensation, unemployment insurance, health insurance employer, life insurance employer, Medicare tax, property and liability insurance, capital improvements. I will begin by asking the maker of the motion if he wishes to say anything before I open it up to the questions.
The article proposed the funding for the town's operating budget in FY22 for each department or portion thereof. The proposed budget identifies expenses where applicable. Salaries and all such lines are identified therein and are to be considered separate appropriations. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, someone put a hold on the fire. Would that person come up to the microphone, please, and ask your question?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm Danielle LaPointe. I'm at 518 Central Street. So I'm not sure if any of you could answer, or maybe there's fire department staff here. I'm just curious, I know at last town meeting, when we were talking specifically about the senior center, several residents had expressed concern that the fire department also had needs such as, like locker rooms or bathrooms, because there's still females and males full-time on staff. I think there's an outside wall crumbling, that sort of thing. So I just wanted to ask a simple question. If the amount we have in the article tonight addresses any of those needs that we had talked about last time at town meeting.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the fire department available to respond? I see a person coming up. Oh, he cleans the mics.
Madam Moderator?
Yes.
Town Manager?
Thank you for the question. The amounts in the budget do not address the physical plant concerns that were raised. As part of the budget deliberations, given some of the budget constraints in the fire department this current fiscal year, it was my recommendation that we hold off until the fall in terms of trying to do anything with particular structures or change of the fire department. It certainly recognizes a need, but in direct answer to your question, it's not in there for this current fiscal budget.
Okay. Any other questions on the fire department? Okay, the second hold was on Recreation Committee. Would the person who offered the hold please come up and provide us with some remarks? Name and address, please.
Tina Santos, Mill Street. I just wanted to ask, for a lot of the events for recreation were canceled last year due to COVID. And so I wanted to see if the appropriations that was approved for the budget for Recreation Committee, would that be rolled over into this budget? And just so for the people tonight are aware, I guess, if not, does that fall into free cash, or where does that money go into?
Thank you. Does someone have an answer for her?
I do.
Mr. Barbara.
The money from this year's budget will roll over into free cash because it hasn't been expended before June 30th.
Any other questions on the Recreation Committee? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve Article 6. Using your keypad, a 1 indicates a yes, a 2 indicates a no. Please vote now. And there are 89% in favor and 11% opposed. Article 6 only requires a majority vote, therefore the budget is passed. Article 7, Select Person Labrie.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $967,915 of water receipts for direct costs of the Water Department Enterprise Fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021, and that indirect costs of $146,063 be appropriated on the general government budget be funded by water receipts.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Article 7. The vote of the selectmen, please.
Board of Selectmen voted to recommend 4-1.
And the vote of the Finance Committee. Recommendation.
Finance Committee recommended 5-0.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Does anyone wish to be heard on this article? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 7 on your clicker, 1 means yes, 2 means no. Please vote now. And the vote on that is 79% in favor, 21% opposed. This again is a majority vote. The article passes. Article 8. Again, Selectwoman Lowry.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $1,373,427, wastewater receipts of $1,202,166, and betterment revenues of $310,000 for the direct costs of the wastewater treatment department enterprise fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021, and that indirect costs of $138,739 be appropriated on the general government budget be funded by wastewater receipts.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Article number 8. Vote of the Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen recommend approval 4-1.
Thank you. Vote of the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommended approval 5-0.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to be heard on this article?
Madam Moderator?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. This is a usual customary, along with the one previous for the water enterprise. We are in the process of putting together an RFP, request for proposal, for an independent survey to be done on our water and sewer infrastructure. So I don't know what the time frame is on that. Mr. Duane?
Probably within 3 months.
We should have one. So within about 3 months, we're hoping to have that report. I know that the water, wastewater, is a very touchy subject. So we're hoping that this independent survey will give some guidance how to move forward in the future with these two funds. Thank you.
Thank you, and I apologize for not calling on you after you made your motion. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Hearing none, with your clickers, all those in favor of Article 8 as presented, 1, against, 2, vote now. I see the vote as 75% in favor, 25% opposed. This is a majority vote. The article passes. Article 9, Selectwoman Salter.
I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $192,028 from transfer station receipts for the direct costs of the transfer station enterprise fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021, and that indirect costs of $22,797 be appropriated on the general government budget to be funded by the transfer station receipts.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Article 9 as presented. Vote of the Selectmen.
5-0.
Thank you. Vote of the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends 5-0.
Thank you. Would the maker of the motion please present your information?
This article proposes to fund the fiscal year 22 transfer station enterprise operations. There's no fee increase proposed to support this budget.
Thank you. Would anyone like to be heard on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 9, press 1. All those in opposition to Article 9, press 2 now. And we see 89% of those in the audience supporting Article 9 and 11% opposed. It is a majority vote. Motion passes. Article 10. Selectman LaBrie.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the total sum of $14,242,642, calculated by required net school spending of $17,036,655 plus $356,606.29 from the prior year override, including a 2.5% escalator, plus $63,000 from solar pilot revenues for FY22, less $3,213,619.65 for net school spending eligible indirect costs budgeted in the general government budget for school expenses. And this is all for the operating budget of the Winchton Public Schools for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Article 10. Vote of the Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen recommends approval of this article 5-0.
Thank you. Vote of the FinCom.
The Finance Committee recommended 5-0.
Would the maker of the motion wish to speak?
It's pretty self-explanatory. I won't say it's pretty self-explanatory. You start looking at the numbers on the school committee side, and it's this plus this minus this. Take that into account. It is something that's been gone over by the board of selectmen, the finance committee, and of course the school committee, and before you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to be heard on this article? Hearing none, all those in favor, press 1. All those opposed, press 2. Now. The vote is 83% in favor, 17% opposed. This is a majority vote. The article passes. Article 11, Selectwoman Anderson, please.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $784,000 to fund the town's assessment for the Montezuma Regional Vocational Technical School for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by many to approve Article 11. Vote of the Selectmen.
5-0.
Thank you. Vote of the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends 5-0.
Would the maker of the motion like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. This article proposes funding for the FY22 assessment from the Montezuma Regional Vocational Technical School for the town's proportionate share of district costs.
Does anyone in the hall wish to be recognized to speak? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 11 as presented, click 1 for agree, click 2 for disagree, now. And the vote stands 80% in favor, 20% opposed. This is a majority vote article, therefore it passes. Article 12, Selectman Ward.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I move to authorize the town manager, in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 44, Paragraph 21C, to enter into a lease purchase agreement for a term of 4 years for the acquisition and equipping of a 10-wheel dump truck with plow and with sander, insert for use by the Department of Public Works.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Article 12 as presented. Vote of the Selectmen.
Selectmen recommend 5-0.
Thank you. Vote of the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends 5-0.
Thank you. Would the maker of the motion like to make a presentation?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. A lease in excess of 3 years requires an authorization from town meeting. This truck will replace an older model that is being retired from service. The funding for the truck payment is included within Article 6. I can point out that this is replacing a 2003 10-wheel dump truck with over 123,000 miles. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone in the hall like to be heard? Hearing none, press 1 for yes, press 2 for no, now. And it is 83% in favor, 18% opposed. This is a 2/3 requirement, therefore the motion passes. Article 13, Selectman Ward.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate from free cash the sum of $95,000 for the purchase, for the acquisition and equipping of 2 police department cruisers.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by many to accept Article 13 as printed. Vote of the selectmen.
Selectmen recommend 5-0.
Thank you. Vote of the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends 5-0.
Thank you. Would the maker of the motion like to speak?
Thank you. This is part of the regular replacement program of police cruisers. None were replaced in fiscal year '21. I believe both these cruisers are well over 100,000 miles. Thank you.
Would anyone in the hall like to be recognized?
Yes. Just a
Come up to the
question,
mic,
clarification.
please. Oh, okay.
Article 13 in warrant reads to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds of borrowing the sum of $95,000. For the acquisition and equipping of the 2 police cruisers. Doesn't mention using free cash at all. I know
Transfer from available funds. Do you want to redo that?
Okay, I was just informed the motion as written is incorrect. It's not from free cash.
Okay, well, we moved and seconded free cash, so we need to amend that.
Make a motion to amend. I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $95,000 for the acquisition and equipping of 2 police department cruisers from Article 6.
Second.
Can you put that in writing for me, please? Is that okay with the Finance Committee?
5-0.
No, does that mean the Finance Committee?
Yes.
Okay, and I heard a second. Does anyone wish to be heard on that? Please come up to the mic. Name and address, please.
Tina Santos, School Street. Although I do support our police officers and I do support that they should be given their equipment properly and such. However, with the capital of $95,000, we do have other projects that are in dire need. They have had several vehicles that have been replaced and that have been purchased. So I guess my question is the DPW roof still leaking? That has been leaking, from what I understand, for more than like 10 years, and I think that was brought up last town meeting. We have the fire department that is not compliant with co-ed, with a lot of, with somebody, from what I understand, that was breastfeeding in the closet.
Can we stick to the $95,000?
What I'm asking is, what I'm suggesting is, or I guess getting to, is that we have other projects that have been brought to town meeting, been put on the back burner, or that we have several projects that are in desperate need that are either, other projects that have been pushed forward, and, this is kind of, we definitely need to, well, everybody needs to get a piece of the pie. I think it really needs to be fair, and we just spent $800,000 on the salary report, which I supported, but I feel that $95,000 can be supported towards our fire department, or for the leaky roof in the DPW, or towards something else. I really feel that we need to kind of make our projects fair. We need to financially support every department, not just specific departments within our towns. And I'm pretty supportive of everyone, but I think, I've been coming to town meetings for quite some time, and it's getting really, really repetitive, and it's getting really old.
We've talked about it numerous times, things just keep getting pushed under the rug, and something needs to happen. So I'm really happy to have you on, Justin, so hopefully things will start to kind of start moving along, because we need to get these other guys projects moving in place.
Okay, does anyone else wish to be heard? Okay, you are voting on the amendment, not the article, okay? And the amendment is, would you please read it again?
I move that the town vote to appropriate from Article 6 the sum of $95,000 for the acquisition of equipment of 2 police cruisers. And
Okay.
Madam, may I respond to her question about the...
Yes, you may.
Thank you very much. The $95,000 for the cruisers is being paid solely through the police station, through their 911 regional dispatch. Years ago, it wasn't on the books, you never saw it, but in an effort to be transparent, we moved that into the operating budget of the town so everyone can see what the police department was spending. We did talk to the DPW department about the DPW roof this year at capital plan. It was decided to be held off for maybe the fall. And the fire station, $75,000 that's going to be put forward in the fall for another study to look at rebuilding the fire station, but not at a $12 million cost. We found that to be too high a capital plan, and we'll be asking for a lower cost option for the fire station in the fall. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to vote on the amendment. If the amendment passes, then we're not going to vote again on Article 13 because the amendment's the same thing as the revised Article 13. Is that okay? All right. With your clicker, 1 is in favor of the article as presented. 2 is opposed to the article as presented. Go. That's 76% in favor of the police cruisers, 24% opposed. This is a majority vote. The article passes. And I've been informed by our attorney that we don't need to revote Article 13 because the amendment was the same thing. Okay, Article 14, Chairman Barbaro.
Thank you. I move that the town appropriate the sum of $597,247 for the purpose of funding the upgrade to the electrical system and the installation of a fire suppression system at Beals Memorial Library. As the funding, therefore, that the treasurer will be approved by the Board of Selectmen to be authorized to borrow up to, and I'll be offering an amendment in a minute, Madam Chair, of $300,000 and issuing bonds and notes therefore pursuant to GLC 44, Section S7, or any other enabling authority, and the third, that any premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by the vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the cost of the insurance of such bond or notes, may be applied to the payment of the cost approved by the vote in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of General Laws, therefore, reduce the amount authorized to be borrowed to be paid such cost, like amount further, that the sum of $300,000 be appropriated from free cash to fund the balance of this request.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Article 14. I hear there's an amendment coming through the wind.
Excuse me, thank you. I've been informed this evening that Robinson Broadhurst gratefully awarded the library $200,000 for repairs. So we'll be reducing the amount the town will borrow by $200,000 to a $100,000 note, which will be absorbed in the budget over the next 5 years.
Is there a second to that amendment?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to amend the article to change the borrowing from $300,000 to $100,000 thanks to the Robinson Broadhurst Fund. Would you like to speak to that? You already have.
I have. We'd like to thank the Robinson Broadhurst for the generous donation of $200,000. As you know, the Beals Memorial Library was built in the early 1900s. It has no fire suppression system, and it is not a tube wire. That's back in the 1900s when electricity first came out. We have a lot of artifacts and a lot of books and a lot of things that will be lost if that would catch fire. This will bring us up to code, as you were so grateful in allowing us to put a disabled access in with the elevator. This will bring us up to compliance with the fire codes and the new electrical codes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barbaro. Would anyone like to be heard on this article? Okay, we're going to vote on the amendment first, and that's the last one that was read, changing the 300,000 to 100,000. That is a majority vote. Okay, using your clickers on the amendment. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Go. And that shows 92% in favor, 80% opposed. The amendment passes. We will now go to approving Article 14 as amended with that $100,000. Okay, he's got to reset the computer. And this, because it is a borrowing item, needs to be a 2/3 vote. Tell me when you're ready. We're ready, okay. All those in favor of Article 14 as amended, yes. Number 1. Number 2, opposed, now. And this changed a little bit. It's 93% in favor, 7% opposed. The article definitely passes by 2/3. Okay, moving on. Article 15, Mr. Barbaro, Chairman.
Thank you. I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $1,560,000 for the purpose of making repairs to Phase 1 of 3 phases from the old Murdoch Senior Center, including the payment of all costs and incidentals related therefore, and as the funding thereof, that the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, be authorized to borrow the said sum and issue bonds and notes thereof pursuant to GLC 44S7 or any other enabling authority, and further that any other premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes approval by this vote, lest any such premium applied to the payment of the cost of the insurance of such bonds or notes may be applied to the payment of the cost approved by this vote in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the General Law, thereby reducing the amount authorized to borrow to pay such costs by a like amount. Further, that any grant funds received from this project will reduce the amount that is actually borrowed from this project, and I will be offering an amendment after.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve Article 15, and the amendment is?
Again, we'd like to really thank Robinson Broadhurst. They have awarded the senior center $604,000 for repairs over the next 2 years. So it will be $302,000 each year, so we'll be reducing, I'll be offering the amendment to reduce the amount of borrowing by $604,000 on such notes.
Second.
Do you have a number on that, Finance Committee?
Let me get my calculator.
I show 956,000.
956.
And that is to be absorbed in the budget, if I might speak.
Yeah,
Let me just finish it.
mine as well.
Thank you. As town meeting requested last year that the town look at another way to fund repairs, this is going to be absorbed into the budget over the next 10 years. It is built through capital plan. It is built as part of our bond for credit up and down as things come off. We try to keep an equal balance. With the addition of the Robinson Broadhurst money, it brings the borrowing note down substantially. Thank you.
And the vote of the selectmen on this article?
5-0.
And the vote of the Finance Committee on this article?
4-1, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, it's 4-1.
4-1, thank you. And
Finance Committee recommends 5-0.
5-0. Okay, we've already spoken on the amendment. Would anyone like to be heard on the amendment? Name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Judy Gilbert. I live at Ipswich Drive. And I want to say that I do appreciate the senior center. I also want to know that it's not just for the seniors. The senior center helps with a lot of things in paperwork for the veterans, paperwork for the seniors. And I know on Tuesday, they received 500 pounds of food, which they distribute in one day. And this isn't just for the seniors, it's going to help everybody, especially during the pandemic. They were there for everybody. And personally, one of the persons who is in charge of the senior center actually takes an interest in everybody who has been at the senior center. It's like one big family. She will call if she hasn't seen them or haven't heard from them. She will call to see if they're okay. If she can't reach them, she'll actually get in her car and go to their house and make sure that they're all right. She's always assisting people. She is just one good thing. So the senior center is mostly needed for not just the seniors, but everybody in this town benefits from that senior center. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Tina Sampson, Snow Street. Can I ask who opposed or why they opposed?
Thank you. I was the one who opposed, and the reason I did is because at that time we didn't have information about the Robinson Broadhurst grant. So I felt like I wanted to wait until we have the grant information, but now that we do, I don't have a problem with it.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, please. Name and address, please, if you get up here. In honor of our Thank you. In honor of our
In on Lakeview Drive, my understanding was that there was a possibility that there were some matching funds from the Massachusetts Historical Commission for preservation funds, and I believe that we had to wait to find out if maybe that would be able to match that. I wonder if we had any more information as to whether we might be able to access those funds now.
If you turn around, the town manager has a response.
Thank you. There was a $50,000 grant from last year, which was held back, and the state has control of that because the project was not approved. We will be in the process of reapplying to see if they will release those funds. It was for an additional $50,000 to the project.
Anyone else? Okay. We have an amendment to this article. If you vote the amendment, it's the same thing as the article because we're going to change one number in it. So we'll do this in one vote, okay? All those in favor of Article 15 with the change as amended, as requested for amendment to $956,000 in line 2, will vote yes for 1, no for 2. Go. Just as a note, I've been watching the responses, and if any questions, we have 124 people in the hall this evening. Thank you for coming. 85% in favor of Article 15 as revised, amended, and 15% opposed. It needed a 2/3 vote. That motion passes. Rockhurst, that you thank them for the library and the old Murdoch donations. I know they appreciate hearing from you. Okay, Article 16, Chairman Barbaro.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I move that the town vote to appropriate from free cash the sum of $100,000 to purchase and install an emergency generator at Toytown Elementary School or acting related thereto.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Article 16 as read. I just want to count. Yes, okay. So we don't need to do an amendment. Would you like to speak to the motion, please, Mr. Barbaro?
Thank you. The installation of emergency generator at Toytown Elementary School will provide for critical backup for electronic communication system and would enable the facility to be utilized as an emergency evacuation shelter area in times of emergency. This is the only building in the district that houses all the communications and the computer systems for the school department, and it's the only school that does not have a backup generator. Thank you.
The vote of the selectmen
5-0.
and the vote of the finance committee.
Finance Committee recommends 5-0.
Okey dokey. Does anyone wish to be heard on this article?
Madam Moderator?
Somewhere. Yes, Selectman Lavery.
Thank you. When this came before us for consideration, one question that was raised was, is a generator something that's going to be permanently at that building, or is it something that we can do elsewhere? Who knows what's going to happen with Toytown down the road? This will be a standalone generator, sitting outside the building, I imagine. So, you know, if down the road we find that, for whatever reason, we don't need it at Toytown anymore, we can move it and move it someplace else within the town. Thank you.
Thank you for adding that information. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Hearing none. On Article 16, you press 1 for agree, press 2 for disagree now. We have to reset? Okay. I thought it was wonderful we had 100% for change. Okay, we have to do this one again. He's resetting. It'll take a few seconds. Are you ready, sir? 1 second. Oh, nice picture. Okay. And all those in favor of Article 16 as presented, 1. All those opposed on Article 16, 2. Vote now. Something wrong with the slide. Is it going to add, or am I going to have to do a vote?
We're going to go back to, we're going to just use one of these ones back here.
Okay.
Give me 1 sec.
One more time. 3rd time's a charm.
Easy practice.
I'm glad he knows what he's doing. There we go, or bear with you. We're good, okay. One more time. All those in favor of Article 16 as presented, 1. All those opposed on Article 16, press 2. Go. And this has 88% in favor, 12% opposed. It's a majority vote. This article passes. Article 17, Selectman Labrie.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I move that the town appropriate the sum of $800,000 for the purpose of replacing and updating water meters throughout the system, and as funding therefore, that the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, be authorized to borrow $800,000 and issue bonds and notes. Therefore, pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7, or any other enabling authority, and further, that any premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the General Laws, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount, and that payments shall be made through the Water Enterprise Fund.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Article 17, the vote of the selectmen,
Board of Selectmen voted to recommend this article 4-1.
and the vote of the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommended 5-0.
Thank you. Would the maker of the motion like to speak to her motion?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Kind of an ongoing thing with meters in town. What we're asking you to approve tonight is upgrading, replacing, in some instances, the entire meter, in some instances, only part of the meter. And the piece that we're going to put in there will actually, it's like bringing it, the water meter systems into the 21st century. There'll be an app that you can download on your phone. If it detects unusual water usage or something unusual with the system, it will send out an alert. I believe it will also alert the DPW. Is that correct? Yes. Rather than someone going away on vacation and coming back in 2 months and getting a water bill with enough zeros on it to make them pass out, hopefully we can catch those issues at the very beginning. So I urge you to support this. I think it'll be a good thing for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the DPW director happen to be in the hall this evening? Mr. Croto, would you like to speak to this? Or perhaps answer any questions that someone might have? The DPW director, introducing himself as Brian Croto.
Pretty customary. This is a much needed upgrade that's going to provide a better service to the residents with awareness and how much water is being used. The current meters are about 12 years old. It's about the lifespan. The new ones are going to last about that, maybe a little bit longer, but with this it'll allow us to get the system back up to grade and to get a better handle on what water is being used and where.
Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Croto while he's here? Yes, would you please come up? Name and address. And when you watch the microphone, can you pull it up a little bit?
Tina Santos, North Street. So, question, two questions, I guess, or 1.5, I guess. There was somebody that opposed, so I wanted to ask who might have opposed on the article. And then, two, I guess, you'll be going into the people's homes to be replacing them, and then you had just said, to question to Brian, you had mentioned that the new water meters would last about 12 years. So are you saying every 12 years we're going to have to spend about $800,000 or related pricing out of our water enterprise to pay for a new water meter? Is that correct? Not because the town doesn't pay for it. Us water users do.
Do you want to answer first to the number, the one vote against?
I was the dissenting vote in reviewing this article because I think the water and sewer bills have been rising astronomically. And until I get that study and I know exactly where every dime has been spent in those enterprise funds,
that we can't just use it as a bed to do, spend whatever we want, because it's not constrained by Prop 2.5.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Carter, you're up.
So I gave a range of about 12 years. It has to go out to bid, and it has to go through a proper RFP process, and in that process, depending on what company it is, the range from it can be anywhere from 12 years to 20 years, depending on what vendor is selected, with what type of meter or electronics is selected. So it's customary for them to last 15 to 20. I don't want to make that guarantee, because these ones that we have now are supposed to last 15 to 20, and it's 12 and they're going dead. So that's what we do at that time when those ones are bought. This is what we know. We know now they're saying 15 to 20, but I can't guarantee that.
Is that your answer, Mrs. Santos?
Oh, I guess. So are we gonna have, as water users, are gonna have to put that bill each time?
Yes.
Along with hydrants that are running all weekend long, and I'm not gonna-
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard on this article?
Nothing.
Seeing none, this is a 2/3 vote required. All those in favor of Article 17, on your clicker, press 1. Opposed, press 2. Now. Polling is closed. 62% yes, 38% no. That is less than 2/3. The motion is defeated. Okay, Article 18, as soon as I turn my page. Article 18, Vice Chairman Ward, please.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise, appropriate, or transfer from available funds the sum of $40,000 for design costs required as part of various grant submissions.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Did you leave out the words free cash?
Yes, that was a mistake.
That was a mistake. Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve Article 18 minus the words from free cash. Vote of the selectmen
Selectmen recommend 4-1.
and the vote of the finance committee.
The finance committee approved 5-2.
Thank you. Would the maker of the motion like to speak to the article?
Madam Moderator, design costs are often required as part of a transportation roadway application program. Without a readily available source of funds, the design costs are often charged to the only available eligible source of funds, and those were the Chapter 90 Roads Fund, which if utilized for design, would not be available for necessary road maintenance. So this article takes that money for design costs away from those Chapter 90 funds, so that Chapter 90 funds are used entirely for the roads.
Thank you for the explanation. Does anyone wish to be heard on this article? Name and address. Please.
Okay. Danielle LaPointe, Central Street. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. We have a grant guru coming on staff, has come on staff with us today. So I'm wondering, part of me would like to wait until we actually apply for grants in the volume that we should before we allocate any more money to this, or maybe put that toward a salary for a grant writer. But I would like to ask our new town manager if he would see this as an added benefit at this time to us, or possibly waiting for a year until we get a handle on what grants are out there, what we can do, what we need, that sort of thing.
Thank you. Would our new town manager like to speak?
Thank you for the question. And to reiterate what Selectman Ward mentioned, oftentimes with these grants, particularly through MassDOT, there is an expectation that we have a certain percentage of design in hand before we can apply, so it would have to be the full plan, but they would anticipate us to have about 25% lockup. And it's my understanding that this $40,000 would cover that, so we would have that cash in hand to get that 25% design, so that we can then apply. It's just kind of the order it typically goes in. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, use your clicker for Article 18. Remembering the words from free cash are not included in that written proposal. And yes is 1, 2 is no, now. We have 75% in favor, 25% opposed. The article passes. It's a majority vote. Chairman Barbaro.
Thank you, Madam. I move the town vote to accept Mellon Road as a public town way for the purpose of customary as a public way, including maintenance and repair, and the location laid out by the Board of Selectmen on plan note as Mellon Road, roadway acceptance plan dated April 23rd, 2021, and drawn by McCarthy Engineering Incorporated, with reference points noted the southerly border at 565 Mellon Road, extended northerly to 215 Mellon Road, said layout having been placed on file with the town clerk.
Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded to accept Article number 19. Would the maker of the motion like to speak to the oh, wait, not before that. Vote of the Selectmen.
3-1-1.
Okay, vote of the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommended 4-0-1 extension.
Thank you very much. Now would the speaker like to
Thank you.
speak?
As noted, this article will accept Mellon Road as a public town way. Easements would need to be obtained, and a special act of the legislation would be also needed within 120 days passage of this article in order for this article to take effect. As we were here last year, this town voted to fund the paving and laying out of Mellon Road to be accepted as a town road. This is the follow-up to that, and Article 20 will be the special legislation needed to get that through the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to be heard? I see a hand way up there. Come on up. Name and address when you get up here. Please.
Good evening, Madam Moderator. Mark Norwood of 245 Mellon Road. I cannot vote for this article in due conscience because if I vote for this form, it negates our arguments that the town's position has been inaccurate. We have provided an article at the end, 24, that is provides a non-waiver so that we're not getting rid of our rights to defend ourselves. Basically, if I vote for this, I'll be lying that I believe the town is correct in their stance on the road. And I don't believe that based on evidence and based on two attorneys. And also, the wording on this goes to 215 Mellon Road, and we've had problems with the board interpreting prepositions in the past. It does not include past 215, so is it going to the northerly end of 215, or is it going to the southerly end of 215? And I have here, this kind of applies to the next article, but I have here shenanigans.
To the next article, I'd suggest.
Well, it does apply to this. Because
okay. As long as you're on this article, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. So Tracy Murphy, the director of the planning board, I have an internal email of hers here, where she says that they're going to amend, alter the plans to not include the end of the road. Now, what that will do is it will take away the end of the road where the school bus got stuck last year, and where the fire department has mandated there's a fire truck turnaround and safety vehicles need to turn around. It's absurd that they want to accept up to that property and not past it. And despite whatever assurances they may provide us tonight, the wording says to, not past or to the end of. Our 24 article does state to the end of the pavement. It's very explicit. There's no confusion as what happened with what's been going on for the last 3 years. We're trying to prevent that, and this article does not prevent that. And I will not lie and admit that my position is wrong. when I know the town position is wrong. Now, should I speak on Article 20 while I'm here?
Not yet, please. Now, are you making an amendment to this motion?
I'm saying I cannot vote for it.
Okay, so you're not amending?
No.
Okay, all right. Just-
We have a better version in the end.
Okay, fine. I just wanted to be sure you weren't making an amendment or you were.
Thank you. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay, might as well have the front seat if you're going to stay for the next one. Does anyone else wish to be heard? I keep looking at him because I think he's going to get up and speak. Okay, Article 19 is before you. All those in favor of Article 19 as presented will signify with a 1. All those opposed will signify with a 2 now. Okay, this requires a 2/3 vote. It's 49% in favor, 51% opposed. The article does not pass. Okay. Oh. Next article, number 20.
Thank you.
Chairman Barbara, would you please read it?
Yes, ma'am. I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by purchase, gift, or eminent domain or otherwise for public way purposes, easements or other interests in the land and location more or less depicted as Mellon Road on the plan entitled Mellon Road Acceptance Plan dated April 23rd, 2021. As said plan may be amended, a copy which has been placed on file with the town clerk to enable the town to lay out and accept said Mellon Road as a public way in town, and to further see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the general court for special legislation on the form set forth below, providing that the general court shall make changes of the form only to the bill unless the Board of Selectmen approve amendments to the bill, therefore enacted by the general court within the scope of the general public objectives of the petition, and 2, authorize the Board of Selectmen to approve such amendment or take any other actions thereof.
Are you going to continue?
An act authorizing the conveyance of land and easement in land in the town of Winchendon, Section 1. Notwithstanding Section 32 to 37 of Chapter 7C of General Laws or any other general or special law to the contrary, the Division of Capital Assets Management and Maintenance, in consultation with the Department of Conservation and Recreation, may convey to the town of Winchendon as a permanent easement for public way purpose and existently identified as Mellon Road on a layout plan prepared by the town as abuts land known as the Winchendon State Forest located in town, which is land under the care and control of the Department and held for conservation and recreation purposes, as identified on the town Winchendon Assessors Map as parcel 12-0-37, subject to such additional terms and conditions consistent with the Act as the Commissioner of Capital Assets Management and Maintenance in consultation with the Commission. Okay. I still got more to go, so bear with me. Of conservation and recreation may prescribe. The deed or other instructions, conveyance, or easements to the town of Winchendon shall provide that the easement shall be used solely for public way purposes. Section 2. Notwithstanding any general or special law of the contrary, the town of Winchendon shall be responsible for all the costs and expenditures of the conveyance of the easement of the town pursuant to Section 1 of this Act as determined by the Commission of Capital Assets Management and Maintenance, which shall include, but not limited to, the cost of engineering surveys, recording fees, deed preparations related to the conveyance of said parcels to the town of Winchendon.
Do I hear a second? I heard a second. It's been moved and seconded to accept Article number 20 as read. Vote of the Selectmen.
3-1-1.
Thank you. Vote of the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends 4-0 with 1 abstention.
Thank you very much. Would the maker of the motion like to speak some more?
Oh, sure. If Article 19 or 24 of this article were approved and easements of special act were obtained, there would be no need to return to a future town meeting for a formal acceptance of the road of public town way, unless the easements or special act were not obtained within 120 days. Basically what this says is this allows us to go to the legislature to get the state forest that's on that road to give us an easement. So either Article 19, which failed, or 24, which comes up, need this article to pass. Without that article, neither one of these articles will be bound to go forward. Thank you.
Mr. Dorwater, saw you standing. Name and address.
Mark Road, Mill Road, 245. Thank you, moderator. First off, I'm sorry we're here still dealing with this. We asked you to vote for a simple resolution to this problem last year, and the town voted in super large numbers to help us out, and we're grateful for that. But the board did not listen to us. We said that you could make it a road by prescription, and the town voted to do that, and the board has yet to recognize it, they've yet to fulfill the mandate of the people. This article is in pursuant to their plan that costs more money, and it's going to set a precedent that this is going to have to happen on all A&R roads in town. There are thousands of A&R properties in town. And the next time we get a Barbara or Mr. Hickey in town, we're going to have this problem over and over again. We have provided a simple solution, which is to recognize the road by prescription, and this is done. I have here the town's attorneys stating in writing that the town can treat it as a road by prescription when a citizen presents evidence to them. It's in writing, I brought this up before, and it's never been refuted. I don't understand why the town can't even listen to its own lawyers. But there's several reasons why their plan will not work. As Tracy Murphy said, they're not even going after the Fisheries and Wildlife Department easements that will be necessary to accept the road. That's in writing. They are going after the DCR to grant easements to the road. The DCR told me in writing they do not have custody or anything to do with Mill Road or land it sits on. The town has not been able to contact the DCR. They haven't communicated with them. I have, and they gave me a written statement. They don't have custody of the land. They cannot grant an easement to something that they don't have an easement on already, and they can't grant an easement to something they don't have custody of or ownership of. This solution is a dead end. It's going nowhere. They're also asking us to grant easements, the butters. We cannot do that because we don't believe we own the land. In fact, we have deeds that show that somebody else owns the land. The lawyers in the town have that in writing too, who said that Mars had all owns the land. The lawyers keep saying things like they don't know where the road was when that deed was done, and that's their excuse for sticking to this story. We do know where the road was. It hasn't moved in hundreds of years. It's between ancient walls that have been there for hundreds of years. We know where the road is. It hasn't moved. The simplest solution is to recognize the road by prescription, as the attorneys have said is done legally, and then to vote for 24 to accept it, which will enable Brian, who's trying to get more funding for the town, which we apply for roads. If we have an acceptance, we can go to the state, we can go to the DOT and say, here's the road on the map, and here's the acceptance at the town meeting. The DOT will modify their list, and then you can get the Chapter 90 money for it. I know this because I spoke to the state. They called me. I left a message. They called me the next day. They're easy to talk to. We've been told that they're not, but they are. This is all that needs to happen. Prescription, like we asked them to do last year, and then just vote for 24 so it's on paper so that Brian can go after the Chapter 90 money, and we're done. If we go down this route, they're not going to get easements to land that somebody says they don't own in 120 days, and they're not even going after all the easements, as Tracy Murphy said in writing. These shenanigans need to end. We've got a simple solution. We gave it to you last year. Why won't we listen? I've provided all this information. Please, do the simple thing. Don't open up a can of worms on all the A&R roads and other A&R properties and go after it this fashion. It's expensive and it's wasteful. It sets a bad precedent for getting more money from Chapter 90. It sets a bad precedent for spending money for no reason. Please do the right thing. Quit holding to your guns as if it's a personal attack on you for us to ask you to do the right thing. It's not personal. But when you devalue our property by tens of thousands of dollars, when you violate the law to do so, and you fight it 3 years in a row, maybe it is personal. But can we just knock off the shenanigans? Can we not have internal documents? Or the director of the planning board has shenanigans? Come on.
Would it? I saw another hand. Yes.
Madam Moderator, I'd like to have Mr. Riley respond to Mr. about prescription.
Through you, Madam Moderator, I don't have much of a background on this as some others in my office, but two things there are town records showing that Mellon Road was discontinued by vote of the town a little over 100 years ago, and did not have the same kind of record that had been made public again. And my understanding of a road being established by prescription is it's really not black and white, and without a court order declaring that it has become public by prescription, it really is not something you can rely on. That's about all I can say about it.
Name and address, please.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Danielle Point, Central Street. So I was kind of hoping that this would just all be resolved and it wouldn't be something that I would have to get in the middle of come tomorrow. I'm just going to put my opinion out there. I feel like we're putting so much effort into fighting about this and drawing a line in the sand, given that there were minutes that were published where the conversation was written on record saying, we don't want to set an example, town government, showing that our citizens and our residents can go down this road and have us pay money to take care of our things. I really think we need to draw a line in the sand saying, how can we as a government best take care of our citizens while also keeping our budget in mind? And I just think, I would implore everyone to decline this question, approve 24, and just show, that the board that I will be sitting on come tomorrow is here for these people and not just for these people. That's all.
Mark Dorr, Mellon Road. I guess I'm going to have to vote the law firm to the law firm. The town may treat a way as public based on evidence presented to it that the way has become public through adverse use. We have presented that evidence, our lawyers have presented that evidence. Linking to the 1914 discontinuance of Mellon Road is a moot point because things changed since 1914. The town violated the law when they ceased maintenance on the road. You cannot have an A&R property, approval not required, on a road that is not maintained by the town. It's illegal. The town ceased maintenance on it, and that's why we had to pay those that it went to hell in the handbasket. And, really, Brian, I have to read to you what your firm said about this. Should I read all of it about prescription, or can you just accept that you don't know land law and you said that publicly?
Excuse me, no comments unless you're up at the
You want me
microphone.
to read you how roads can be laid out? I'd rather not have to go through it. I'd rather just move on.
Can you summarize?
Vote for 24, don't vote for this one, and the new board will make it a road by prescription as they legally can, as the town's firm has said in writing as they can. And then Brian can get his money because he got the vote on the chapter 90, and we're done. Thank you.
I see a hand. I heard a voice from over here.
Madam Chair. So there seems to be some confusion of what's going on here, so let me bring people back to how this all came about. In the early 90s, an agreement was entered into with the town of Winchton and the builder of all those houses on Mellon Road. In that agreement, the builder and the town entered into an agreement as far as the builder paid the town to put the groundwork of the road and lay the road out. The second part of the agreement that the contractor entered into was with the town was, as he sold each lot, he would put money in an account, and that money would be held until all the lots were built, and they would then pay the town the money to put the hot top, the second coat on the road. The contractor never did that, never put any money into any account for the town to recoup that money to pay this, put the second coat on. Partly, part of the town's fault was they never followed up on it. The road was discontinued. It has not been taken by prescription and will not because it gets tied up in court for over 2 years, so we can be here for 2 years. The way we laid out, Article 20 allows us to go to general court and get this done. And now that Article 24 will pass, will allow us to get this resolved as we promised this year. Thank you.
Name and address, please.
Yes, hi, David Watkins, 235 Mellow Road. So I have a question for the town's attorneys, Mr. Riley. He mentions the discontinued portion of Mellow Road. I'm not sure he totally understands the situation. We're here to accept all of Mellow Road, from the Gardner line to the end of Mellow Road, the 250. I'm not sure anybody here really understands that. Last year we were here to discuss the discontinued portion of Mellow Road. We feel that we've given all the documents necessary to prove that the agreement that was made with the town superseded the discontinuance. Now, once again, Mr. Riley, you made mention of a discontinued part of the road. We're here for the other end of Mellow Road that was never discontinued. You know why? Because documents cannot be provided showing that it was ever properly accepted. Well, in the town hall, I was told by several people, I was told by the former DPW director, I have neighbors that were told the very same thing. Documents don't exist because they were shredded. I also was told by the building inspector that that's impossible. Those documents cannot be shredded. So I was told by the tax assessor, when I was there looking at the documents, they were lost in the flood. They're in the basement in the flood. Come on. Documents just don't disappear. Poor handling of documents is what's been happening in this town. These documents exist. We have documentation stating that Mellon Road was always a town road. That was written by the clerk in 2008, along with the town manager at that time. Mellon Road was always considered a town road. This is money that's being spent unnecessarily. It's going to go again and again. If we go with these easements, there is a plan B by the town's attorneys. I read it. Plan B is, if we're unable, unsuccessful to get these documents, the easements, then we will need title searches for all of these properties. It's stated in that document it's going to be very lengthy process and very expensive. So what do we want to do here? Do we want to just spend all this money unnecessarily? Or do we want to get this voted by prescription? This road fulfills all of that. I hired some attorneys in Boston. The Mellon Road residents hired those attorneys. Those attorneys are adamant. This is a road by prescription. Mr. Riley does not know what he's talking about. He's admitted it. He certainly doesn't know about all of Mellon Road being involved. It's not the discontinued portion. It's the entire road. We all need to understand what's going on here. This is the town dropping the ball once again. This is the town's attorneys advising them of one thing and doing another. We cannot allow them to do title searches. This is going to cost a ton of money. We cannot allow that. We need this to go as a road by prescription. It's the simplest way. It costs no extra money for this. And the town's attorneys don't get rich over it. Because I understand title searches can be very lengthy. I've been involved in that myself. It can go on and on and on. And at the very end of the rainbow, what they find out is, we've researched it back 100 years. I guess we're good. but they received all these funds to do that research. That's all I really want to say is we got to stop spending money here. Thank you very much, and also thank you very much. My end of the road has been beautifully paved, and that was accomplished at town meeting last year, and I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else in the building who, in the hall, who would like to be heard? Yes, Mr. Ward.
First of all, I'd like to just say, there's nothing personal in this. I don't have any personal feeling one way or the other, so put that to rest right now. The reason that I think we should pass 20 is because that's the first step in doing this right. In 1914, you, the residents of this town at town meeting, discontinued that section of Mellon Road as a town road. It was voted no in 1914. I don't believe that you should be giving the authority to a board of selectmen to decide which private roads are going to be accepted by this town or not accepted. This is up to you to vote. Article 20 is the first step. Once those are done, now that Article 19 failed, we will have to come back at the next town meeting to accept that road. So I'm just asking you to support 20 so we can get on with this.
Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard? I see a hand coming down the aisle. Name and address, please, when you get to the mic.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Lisa Musgrave, Grove, 535 Mellon Road. First of all, thank you everybody last year for voting to help put a layer of tar on the end of the road where it's really bad. And I invite you, any one of you, on a Sunday drive, it's a really nice drive, come out our way, come up, and it connects to Clark Street, which turns into Howard Street. Howard Street's the beginning of the road on the garden side, turns into Mountain Road. Take a drive down the road. Just take a Sunday drive and see what it looks like, see what it feels like. I live on the end closest to the Gardner line. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. The end that was paved, that's wonderful. If you drive all the way down, it's a long, long road. This is not a private road. I've lived there for 24 years. 24 years. It's not private. When we built our house, we were not told it was private. There's no documentation that we have that says we live on a private road. And so I am not voting in favor of 20. I will vote in favor of 24. I ask you to please do the same thing so that we can just get this over with. That it can be simple, and we can not cost any of us a whole lot of money and more time. So thank you.
Are there any more comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of Article 20 as read, all the pages of it, will press 1. All of those opposed will press 2. This is a majority vote because it does not involve asking for money from the Commonwealth. Vote now. And we have 37% in favor, 63% opposed. The article does not pass. Article 21, Select Person Anderson, please.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I move that the town vote pursuant to General Law, Chapter 43B, Section 10A, to amend the town charter as recommended by the Charter Bylaw Review Committee in a document entitled 2021 Proposed Charter Revisions on file in the office of the town clerk and available on the town's website at www.townofwinchton.com. with text to be inserted, underlined, and text to be deleted, shown in the margins.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Article 21. Would the maker of the motion care to speak?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The revisions include, but are not limited to, ministerial and clerical amendments such as grammar, capitalization, gender neutrality, internal consistency, and references to, and updates based upon state law and other matters. If approved, the charter amendments will also need to be approved by a majority vote at the 2022 annual town election to become effective.
Thank you. Vote of the selectmen?
5-0.
5-0. Vote of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends 5-0.
5-0. I have a note on here. Chairman Ward, would you like to speak on this?
For the charter, the only major changes were committees that were added. We added the Communication Committee, the Cultural Council, the Fence Viewer Field Driver, the Recreation Commission, the Environmental Certifying Officer, and the Board appointments to offices and member bodies.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on this article? I hear a back thing. Squirrel. Okay, seeing none. Wait a minute. Thank you, Don. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of Article 21 as presented, 1 is yes, 2 is no. Vote now. And 88% are in favor, 12% opposed. That is a majority vote, and it does pass. Article 22, Selectwoman Labrie.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Sorry, I think next time. I move that the town vote to amend the general bylaws of the town of Winchton as recommended by the Charter Bylaw Review Committee in a document entitled 2021 Proposed Bylaw Revisions, on file in the office of the town clerk and available on the town's website at http://www.townofwinchton.com, with text to be inserted, underlined, and text to be deleted shown in the margins.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Article 22 as presented. Vote of the Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen recommends approving this article 5-0.
Thank you. Vote of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommended approval 5-0.
Thank you very much. Would the maker of the motion like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Very similar to Article 21 that was just approved. This addresses any of the changes made to the bylaws that the Charter Bylaw Review Committee has been working on the past months. Clerical amendments, grammar, etc. There were certain substantive, and I'm not saying that right, revisions, such as an update and a replacement of Articles 12 and 31 per Mass General Law for the clarified language and other matters.
Thank you. Chairman Ward?
The only other thing was Section 1. Right now, the town sends booklet of articles to every registered household voter in the town, and that cost is between $5,000 and $7,000. Our recommendation was a postcard go to every resident with an email, a phone number, a way to contact, and if they wanted an actual copy of the articles, we would make arrangements to send them one. We thought that savings would be somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000. And there were some revisions to the animal control, Article 17, clarification of when a dog is deemed as a public nuisance, disposition, penalties, and impounding of such dogs, because that's always a problem when the officer has to go and the dog is a public nuisance, and that had not been defined.
Does anyone have any questions or input on this article? Yes. Name and address, please.
In Arthur, Lakeview Drive. Just two quick questions. One is, how how soon do the new bylaws take effect? When are they considered to be in effect? And how soon will the final version of the new document be available to the public on the website?
Thank you. Someone have an answer to those questions?
I know that they have to go to legislation, and we were hoping that it would be before they went for recess this year, but there's no guarantee.
Through Madam Moderator, these are the general bylaws of the town, and so if they're approved tonight, the changes have to get sent to the Attorney General's office. They have 90 days to review and approve. Often they don't take that long. Then they just have to get published in sort of the same fashion that a town warrant gets approved. And then they become effective as of then, when copies of the revised bylaws will be available on the website.
Is that okay? Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Chair?
Selectman Lambert, thank you.
To the chair, to Attorney Moore, should the Attorney General make a change to it or something other than say, yes, this is all right? Do we have to revisit this at another town meeting, or how do we handle any changes that they feel that needs to be made?
Occasionally, the Attorney General's office will disapprove a change, saying really the only reason is that it's inconsistent with state law. So that one you would have to think about it and try again. I read through the changes that are being proposed, and I really don't expect that to happen.
Thank you.
Don, I see 4 responses on Article 22 already. Okay, can you erase those? Thank you. Does anyone else have any additional questions? Okay, on Article 22, all those in favor of Article 22 as read, 1 is yes, 2 is no. Please vote now. And we have 89% in favor, 11% opposed. The majority vote carries. Okay, Article 23, Vice Chairman Moore.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I move that the town vote to accept a deed in lieu of foreclosure from John D. Walker or from the then current owners pursuant to the provisions of General Law, Chapter 60, Section 77C, to 3 parcels of land identified as 1, Assessors Map 4D4-0-11, being .14 acres, more or less, located on Hall Street. 2, Assessors Map 2-0-72, being .15 acres, more or less, located on Lincoln Ave. And 3, Assessors Map 2-0-73, being .30 acres, more or less, located on Lincoln Avenue. Said property described in a deed recorded with the Worcester South Registry of Deeds in Book 4810, page 40, which parcels are subject to tax takings held by the treasurer collector for unpaid real estate taxes. Said parcels to be under the care, custody, control, and management of the Board of Selectmen for general municipal purposes, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept and record the deed, provided the Board of Selectmen determines that the deed and the acceptance shall comply with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 60, Section 77C.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to accept Article number 23 as read. Report of the Selectmen.
Selectmen recommend 5-0.
Thank you. The Board of Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee recommends 5-0.
Would the maker of the motion like to speak?
Thank you. This article is seeking authorization to accept a deed in lieu of foreclosure from an individual who had purchased these parcels that were in tax title in the 1960s. It turns out that the parcels had very little value to the buyer. Rather than go through a process that would be costly to both the town and the owner of the parcels, the owner is requesting that the town accept the deed in lieu of foreclosure to resolve this matter. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions, comments? Yes. And when you get to the mic, name and address, please.
84 Lincoln Ave. Just some general questions. I'm not aware of specifically where this is, but have the members of the board, before they recommend this, have they actually walked this property to make sure that it's not, you're not accepting something that, for instance, is a trash or is on site?
Is there an answer to that question?
All I know is I've driven up by the areas on this, to identify that little piece of land is very difficult.
Any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of Article 23 as presented, 1 for yes, 2 for no, vote now. And, I'm sleeping. 82% in favor, yes. 18% opposed, no. This is a majority vote, and it passes. Last article of the evening, folks. Article 24, it's a citizen petition, therefore the selectmen do not move the article, so I'm assuming the person coming up the sidewalk here is going to make the motion.
Yeah, thank you.
Name and address.
Mark Rower of Bell Road. I do have some typos that we tried to get fixed to the select board, but Mr. Delaney would not allow it, and I was wondering if I can amend that before now. And if I should do that before I read it or after. I can just show you, I can just point to you and show you that's simple.
I will do it after. Okay.
The residents of Mill Road are not waiving earlier public designations, recognitions, A&R, public
Wait a
nature.
minute, I don't see that here. Oh, we need that? I don't see that here in the petition.
It's all right.
It's separate? Okay, can you make sure we get a copy up here? It's in the warrant? Okay. Okay, town clerk has it.
Okay,
I'm
thank you.
sorry.
Okay. The residents of Mill Road are not waiving earlier public designations, recognitions, A&R, public nature by description, and/or other actions, omissions, and/or statements that the road is a public way, and the residents of Mill Road reserve all remedies for the town of Winchendon attempting to change positions, including, but not limited to, damages and attorney's fees. Subject to the foregoing reservations and notice of non-waiver, in order to stop the town of Winchendon from continuing to avoid its obligations, the residents of Mill Road hereby present this petition. Petition subject to notice of non-waiver. To see if the town will vote to accept Mellon Road from the southern border of Winchendon town line adjacent to the property number 565, extending to the northernmost border of property 215 to the end of new pavement, as shown on the existing conditions plan 204 to 405 Mellon Road, Winchendon, Massachusetts, prepared for McCarty Companies by Topper Land Surveying, file number 20383 215-405 Mellon Road, Winchendon, McCarty, for all purposes for which the public ways are used in the town of Winchendon and for the purpose of maintenance and repair.
But here's second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve article number 24. Mr. Gilroy, the only thing I caught was there was a missing word to the between extending and northernmost.
Correct, that's it, and then Mellon Road is misspelled at least 2 times.
Okay, but it's pronounced the same way.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
So,
would you,
so I'll speak on it for a second. Just to clarify, a month ago, the chair of the board said that when the DCR came to property on Mellon Road, that he had a document saying that it was a town road in 1965. The lawyer is now saying that it was discontinued in 1914, just to point out the absurdity. Which is it? No. It's a rhetorical question. Thank you very much.
you certainly may respond, yes asked you a question.
First of all, I never said, let me repeat myself, I never said that there's a document. I said, in 1965, at a town meeting, the town voted to give the forest to the state. I said also that there has to be a document somewhere. That's what I said. I did not say anything else. So please, sir, do not put words in my mouth.
With all due respect, on your live video, also to put words in your mouth, you did say that Mellon Road had a manhole cover on it that caused damage to towns. But let's not get into that. Those lies need to end here.
That really has nothing to do with the article.
I'm finished. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm not sure if, because it's a citizen's petition, whether there was a vote from the selectmen?
Yes.
There was no vote.
There was a vote
There was a
from
vote.
the Board of Selectmen not to recommend.
Okay.
311.
Okay, and how about finance?
The Finance Committee voted not to recommend 4-0, 1 abstention.
Thank you. Does anyone else in the hall wish to be heard? Selectman Lamb.
Madam Chair, thank you. Just to clarify some of the terms, and that may be part of the confusion, we've got private way, we've got public road, and we have accepted road. Just because a road is public doesn't mean the town has officially accepted it and added it to its official list of roads that we put to the state and get our Chapter 90 fund money from. So it's not, it's a public road. It can be, something can be a public road but not accepted. So that's, I just want to clarify some of the terminology. It's that acceptance part that we're trying to get through now, following procedure in order to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. I see a hand way up, come on up, and then I will get to, I saw a hand somewhere. And again, because I'm so bad at names, name and address when we get up to the mic. Please.
David Watkins, 235 Mellon Road. So I was just elaborating on what Audrey was saying about accepted roads, roads that are town roads, public roads. Once again, we requested, Mellon Road Action Committee requested documents just showing which roads in town were accepted roads, collecting Chapter 90. Now, one of them, of course, we all know from last year, was Central Street. So Central Street was apparently never accepted. There's no documents. Documents, I guess, didn't exist. But they were receiving Chapter 90 money, even though it wasn't an accepted road, which I find very interesting. It's once again not treating roads equally. Now, Mellon Road, the acceptance of Mellon Road, the discontinuance of Mellon Road, the idea that the Chapter 90 documents, I have it about Mellon Road, and it's handwritten on the line whether it's accepted or not, receiving Chapter 90 or not. It's handwritten and it says the part that was discontinued is not. Then it goes on and says the wording, some of it. What does that mean? These are documents the town is going by to get Chapter 90 money. This document says some of it. It's not giving any locations. It's just saying some of it. Now, Mellon Road goes from the Gardner line all the way down to 215, and then it ends up in the woods and picks up again on the other side of Town Farm for, I think, about 3 houses. I think I found out that that dirt path is accepted. I also think I found out that there is no proper documents for road acceptances. When it's handwritten in and it's saying some of it, or just the word yes, no, with a slash, what does that really mean? How do we know if it's not on a document that can be understood? Now, I've asked our DPW director, Brian, about these documents, and he stated that's what he goes by. This is all he has. Now, what really has to happen here is these documents have to have more clarification. What part of Melon Road? Why can't we have house numbers? So, once again, in the spring, all of a sudden, the other end of Melon Road, the end that goes all the way to Gardner, has become apparently unaccepted. In lieu, there's no documents. But the document I have says some of it. Now, why can't that be interpreted that that's the part, that's some of it? It just makes absolutely no sense that we're sitting here tonight and we're voting on something that we don't know whether it's been accepted at town's expense. Once again, these are documents that have to be presented to the town attorneys, have to write this stuff up. And here we sit, spending more money on something that's more than likely been done and lost in the flood or shredded, is what I've been told. That's why these documents don't exist. But yet we have to just continue a redo. Makes no sense. Again and again, some of it. That just sticks in my mind, some of it. Which part? I mean, we need to get by this and find out which parts of all these roads. Now, these documents cover every road in town. So I read them and reread them, and it's just absurd the way that they're listed on this. And this is how Chapter 90 funding is gotten through the state. So we need that money to help repair our roads, which are in dire need. If we can't keep up with the road repair, then we're not even going to be able to drive to town. So I think this all needs to be looked into. It has to be looked into, these documents that we're all going by. The town's going by, the town's attorneys are going by, and everybody has an opinion. It's just not good enough for me. Some of it is just not good enough for me. I think everybody needs to think and understand about their own roads, the way they're listed. Are they listed properly? Are they listed legally? Where are the documents that show this stuff? Nobody knows on a great portion of those documents. They can't find them. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I saw your hand up, name and address. Can you get up to the mic, please?
Lisa Barbaro, Brown Street. First of all, I just want to say, I really want these people to get their roads straightened away. But there's something in here that kind of just strikes me and concerns me, where it says that they reserve remedies, including but not limited to damages and attorney's fees. And I'm just wondering, what are we potentially getting ourselves into paying? That's all.
Mr. Kane, and then I'll get you next.
I don't have a dog in this fight, but I've been listening to it for the last year and a half. And I think we've come a long way from all we want is to have the potholes fixed. We've moved as a town a long ways away from that. We approved last year money not just to fix the potholes, but to pave the road. And to do the work that we need to do to accept the road as a public road in town. This year we've got 3 articles that deal with this issue. First two, first one was, I think, proposed originally by some residents of Melon Road, which they now asked us to vote against. This article that we're discussing now basically says the same thing as Article 20 did. What was that Article 19? Except that it reserves the right, it spells out the right to sue the town. And seemingly what it's suggesting is if they don't do it our way. Now, there's a lot of opinions here, there's a lot of thoughts about whether the town should accept the road by prescription. That's an opinion. And I know that the residents of Melon Road feel very strongly about that opinion. But there are other opinions in town too that suggest, well, if we just take that town by prescription, that road by prescription, what about all the other roads in town that are accepted roads? So it seems to me that the prudent thing for the town to do is to follow the rules that they believe they have to follow. and go through this, which is what Article 20 is all about. Go to the legislature, get the easements that you need from the state rights, and move forward. I don't know what documents we're looking for, but it seems to me that the argument now isn't whether to approve the road or not. It's by which method do we approve the road? Do we follow the steps that we believe that the state requires us to do? Or do we follow the opinion that, no, we can just vote and take it by prescription? Actually, it's the board of selectmen that could vote to take it by prescription. So I'm not in favor of this article at all.
Mark Order 245. I think there actually is confusion, Mr. Dean.
I'm sorry?
I think there's some Mr. Dean's confusion. We're not trying to sue the town. We're not trying to force the town to do it our way. We're trying to get the town to do it a way that will work. The Article 20 version will not work. And I don't know why it's so hard to explain this, but their version is going after easements from entities that cannot grant easements to that property because they have no plans together. The DCR is not magically going to renege on their statement that they made in writing. They're not magically going to say, oh, we were wrong when we spent the summer talking about this. It's not going to happen the 20 way. We're asking for it to happen a way. And to answer Lisa, we're not trying to sue the town. We spent 3 years fighting this in order not to sue the town. David and I have sat up here and gone to many meetings talking about the cheapest way to solve the problem. We've done that over and over and over again. The select board had an unlawfully held executive session where they strategized on how the cheapest way they could deal with this is in light of them understanding that they would lose a lawsuit. That's in writing. That was an unlawfully held executive session where they strategized about that. I have that in writing. They approved those minutes where they said that. The AG said it was an unlawfully held executive session. We're just after getting it done. We're not trying to sue the town. If we sue the town, it's going to wind up with 2 years of depositions and people on town salary are going to be sitting in offices getting grilled by our lawyers. Do you think this guy can defend the town?
Can you answer me what this has to do with this question?
I'm answering these two.
I don't see how this has anything to do with this question.
Okay, I feel like I answered their questions. Thank you.
Call the vote.
Okay, I've heard a call for the vote. And I don't see anybody else standing up to say anything. So let's go for the vote. This requires a 2/3 vote, by the way. And I see there's already someone who's responded. Can you clear the screen, please? Okay. All those in favor of Article 24 as read, press 1 for yes, press 2 for no, now. Okay, 59% yes, 41% no. It's a 2/3 vote, as I said, it does not pass.
Point of order.
Yes, what is your point of order, please?
The printed warrant, it says majority.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. You need to come up to the microphone with your name and address so I can hear you. The warrant says 2/3 required on my copy. Warrant says majority. Okay, could you clarify?
Through you, Madam Moderator, by statute, when county needs approving a public way, accepting a public way that's on a subdivision plan approved by the planning board, that is majority vote. Any other kind is a 2/3 vote.
Okay, does that answer your question, or do you have another one? Name and address, please.
Michael Kelly, 525 Mountain Road. This is a legal document, correct?
I don't know which one you're looking at.
It's the town warrant mailed out to the voters.
Okay, yes. This one?
The one that says majority vote required.
Okay, I'll handle that, sir.
Hey, that's a big problem.
I'm sorry, I can't hear people saying something. If you have something to say, please come up to the microphone, otherwise I can't recognize you, I can't hear you. Okay, the article as printed says majority vote required. I did announce two-thirds vote, didn't I? When I began? Yes, okay. According to the attorney, it is a two-thirds vote. And I see a hand raised. I see several hands raised. Okay, if you have a point of order, you may speak to that point of order. Name and address, please.
Tina Santos, Mill Street. According to the special town meeting warrant articles that were mailed home, it says majority vote required. What was printed and handed out this evening, majority vote required. I am not sure what you have in front of you, but it all says majority vote. So I think that needs to be honored. Or it needs
Okay. Well, sorry about that. Mine says two-thirds. The attorney has told me to go with the vote. 59% in favor, 41% opposed. The ayes have it.